What of Mary? Was she lazy, inconsiderate, and unloving? Listen to Spurgeon's take on Mary's choice. Let us without fear, Spurgeon says, enjoy leisure with Jesus. Leisure, not laziness. Leisure to love, to learn, to commune, to copy. Leisure to sit and to sit in the most delightful of all places. Then Spurgeon talks about love in lowliness. In this lowliness, let each one personally copy Mary. Say to yourself, I chose the feet of Jesus to be my place. Let me be, Spurgeon suggests, not a busy housewife and manager, which anyone may be, and yet be graceless, but one, a penitent, which is an acknowledgement of my unworthiness. 2, a disciple, which is a confession of my ignorance. And 3, a receiver, which is an admission of my emptiness. So listening to Jesus, Spurgeon suggests, is the good part. And my take on that is that you notice right away that according to the account, Mary doesn't bite back at her sister. She knows she's got the good portion and she rests content in that. Now Spurgeon quotes Bishop Hall this way, the greater submission, the more grace. If there be one hollow in the valley, lower than another, thither the waters gather. So I guess the question for all of us is, have we found these deep waters? Hands that serve, fingers that point. This is head number 3 of the organization of the 5 verses. How is it that so often busy hands have fingers left to point? Some of the great commentators like Calvin and Godet suggest that in criticizing her sister, Martha was carrying service beyond its proper bounds, actually finding pride in her work and judging those who do less. Was the seeming selflessness of her service contaminated by self-importance? And what on earth would cause a hostess to tear a strip off a guest, not to mention the master? Martha knows her sister well enough to know she will listen to the Lord. Bid her help me, she complains. We can take this, I suppose, as a tribute to the Lord, in that Martha and Mary obviously felt close enough to him, comfortable enough with him, to take liberties. But each took liberty in a way peculiar to her personality and priorities. Mary at his feet, Martha at his throat. Here we do well to picture ourselves in the room. Are you Mary or Martha? Am I a disciple or a doer? Here we have a lesson that should prevent us comparing our type of service to others. Luke's point is not that there is only one way to be a Christian. J.C. Ryle observes this way. There are 2 temperaments, both loved by Christ, but we must not compare to others as if less grace or even no grace is what the other person is exemplifying. So I don't think we can go into this account looking for Jesus' preference. I don't think that is clear, but obviously in the way these 5 verses turn out, it is Martha that's being reproved and not Mary. 4th head is Jesus the faithful friend. Another tribute to the Lord. There is in his response to Martha not merely tact, but infinite tenderness. Do we not sense his grace even in the twice uttered name? Martha, Martha. Do we recall 2 other occasions when the Lord repeated a name? We dealt with that at the beginning. They were, of course, Saul of Tarsus and Simon Peter. Alfred Plummer points to a repetition of the name in these 2 accounts of the last night of Jesus' life before the cross and the calling of Saul of Tarsus. In the way that these names are repeated twice, there is an expression of affection and concern, Plummer says. Martha complains of having no one to help her, but it was by her own choice that she had so much to do. What kind of Lord is this who says, you're persecuting me, it's hard for you? That's, of course, Christ's words to Saul of Tarsus. But one who tempers truth with tenderness. Yes, it was not Jesus who set up the menu for this dinner. Martha had her own standard of hospitality and was mortified that neither her sister nor her master cared as much as she did. You are distracted by many things, the Lord says. Well, there is infinite tenderness and tact in Jesus' reply, there is also a reproof. First, in fist in velvet, as it were. Martha, Martha, why are you bending your own nose? We recall the proverb, the wounds of a friend are faithful. That's Proverbs 27, verse 6. Do we care enough to check a friend whose choices need adjusting? Would we do it in public if necessary? And would we be able to balance directness with gentleness, as does the Lord? I often marvel at the outrageous things Jesus says to his friends. The same Peter heard, Simon, Simon, I have prayed for you, and get behind me, Satan. How is it they didn't take offense? He must have exuded compassion to sweeten the medicine, as Paul would later urge us to do, speaking the truth in love, tempering truth with tenderness. There's a great art. How are you and I doing? In the next segment, we'll talk about Christ's purity of motive and Martha's outburst, what it reveals about sisters' priorities.